Today we know Philadelphia International Airport as the East Coast hub of American Airlines, but back in 2007, Philadelphia was still home to US Airways. The airline had only a few years prior absorbed the airline America West, and with that merger started introducing a new livery, had become a member of Star Alliance, and had been voted the worst US airline in 2007. It was a time of change in the US aviation industry and the dawn of the next big wave of airline mergers in North America. So with that, welcome to PHL 2007. And so we meet up here at Philadelphia International Airport at a random afternoon in 2007. And other than the airport being home to US Airways and not American Airlines, there are of course a few other minor changes compared to what the airport looks like today. Apart from the fact that the airport is also the destination of quite a few airlines that simply do not exist anymore today, the airport has also changed a little bit when it comes to the infrastructure. Most significantly, the terminal extension of Concourse A hadn't been constructed yet, nor the airport hotel. But without any further delay, let's take a tour around our airport to see what it looked like back in 2007. And over at the remote stands, we find an Embraer ERJ-145 of United Express that today is flying between Philadelphia and New York Newark Airport. The aircraft arrived about 10 minutes ago and is right now offloading passengers and will later this afternoon be flying back to the Big Apple. Next to the United, we have an US Airways Express -8Q100. The aircraft is today flying between Washington National and Philadelphia Airport and is right now taking on passengers and has a scheduled departure in around 15 minutes time. An aircraft currently in the middle of its turnaround is this Boeing 757-200 of US Airways. The aircraft arrived earlier, or about 30 minutes ago, from Charlotte and will later today at around 4:15 in the afternoon be heading to Detroit. Currently third in line for departure on runway 27 right is this Airbus A321 of US Airways. The aircraft arrived earlier this afternoon from Phoenix to where it will be returning, and if nothing goes wrong, it looks like the aircraft will be leaving perfectly on time today. Right in front of the US Airways Airbus, but first in line for takeoff is the 737-700 of Azteca. In fact, the aircraft is right now about to line up on the runway and will be returning to Mexico City. Second in line and patiently waiting for its turn to take off is this Boeing 717-200 of AirTran. The aircraft has today been flying between Philadelphia and Baltimore to where it will be returning, and as it looks like with a few minutes delay but nothing, the aircraft can't catch up in flight. And today in the remote stands of Concourse A, we find among others this Embraer ERJ-170 of Delta Airlines that today is serving the route between Philadelphia and LaGuardia Airport. The aircraft has arrived a few minutes ago and is right now deboarding passengers and will then be prepared for its return flight back to New York. Also in the remote stands of Concourse A, we find this 737-700 of AirTran that is serving the route between Philadelphia and Atlanta. The aircraft is in the middle of its turnaround right now, starting to take on first cargo and luggage, and has still about 25 minutes until its scheduled departure. The cabin is right now being prepared for passengers to arrive. Arriving a few minutes early and pulling into the ramp right at this moment is this MD-83 of American Airlines that has come in from Miami. The aircraft will remain here at the airport until a few minutes to 5 in the afternoon and will then again be flying back out to Florida. Next up we have this Boeing 737-800 of Delta Airlines that today is serving the route between Philadelphia and Atlanta. The aircraft arrived at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and now has about half an hour left until its scheduled departure, set at 10 minutes past 4 in the afternoon. Some first luggage and catering is right now being loaded into the aircraft. And next up we have an Airbus A319 of Northwest Airlines. The aircraft has arrived not that long ago and is still being offloaded, and passengers are deboarding the aircraft. And after that has finished, the aircraft will be prepared for its return flight back out to Minneapolis, leaving just shy of 4:30 in the afternoon. Over at the B Concourse, our terminal for US Airways and its Star Alliance partners, we find this Airbus A320 of US Airways. The aircraft came in earlier this afternoon from Dallas and is right now being prepared for its flight out to New Orleans. There's still about 17 minutes left, but it does look like proceedings are not quite going to plan, so this aircraft might leave with a few minutes delay. Also very much in its preparations to soon leave the airport here is this A319 of Air Canada that only has 15 minutes until its scheduled departure back out to Montreal, but things do look like they are running much more smoothly over here, so the aircraft should be able to leave on time. Unfortunately, that is not the story for this Boeing 757-200 that also is struggling to leave on time, as this US Airways flight already is falling behind its scheduled departure time of 34 minutes past 3 in the afternoon. The aircraft originally arrived from Las Vegas and is right now struggling to get out on its flight to Charlotte. On the other side of B Concourse, where we have the wide-body stance, we find this Airbus A330-300 of US Airways that has recently arrived from London Gatwick. Right now the aircraft is being offloaded and then it will be prepared for its next intercontinental flight, which will bring the aircraft over to Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport. Next up we have this Airbus A340-300 of Lufthansa. This aircraft has come in from Frankfurt at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And now the aircraft will be pushed out of the ramp to make space for some other arrivals, and then later this evening will be pushed back into the ramp so that it can take on passengers for its return flight back to Germany. Over at C Concourse, our international terminal, we find this Airbus A340-300 of LAN Chile. The aircraft has arrived earlier this afternoon from Santiago de Chile, the capital of the country, to where it also will be returning. The aircraft still has a little over 1 hour left on its scheduled turnaround. Next to the South American carrier, we find this South African carrier, more specifically South African Airways, with their Airbus A340-200 that they are using on the route between Johannesburg and Philadelphia. After having arrived from the African nation at 20 minutes past 2 in the afternoon, the aircraft is now in the middle of its turnaround and being prepared for its return flight. And we stay on the topic of routes going south of the equator, as this McDonnell Douglas MD-11 is connecting the Brazilian city of Sao Paulo with Philadelphia International Airport. The aircraft arrived around 8 minutes to 2 in the afternoon and has now just under 1 hour left on its turnaround. The aircraft is right now being loaded and fueled, so boarding should soon be able to start. And then our last aircraft on our airport tour today will be this Airbus A330-200 of US Airways that has just come in from Europe, more specifically from Munich. The aircraft will now remain here until early evening, when it will make the next trip over the big pond, but this time to Lisbon in Portugal. Now with that, we have reached the end of today's episode of Airport Update. If you have enjoyed this video, then don't forget to leave a like, that would be very much appreciated. And of course, if you are new around here, why not hit subscribe? With that, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching and hope to see you soon again in a new episode of PHL 2007.